Good morning. Good morning. I want to welcome everybody to the Morning Update Show right here on Converge Media Network. Today, January 18th, 2021, we're celebrating Martin Luther King Jr. Day. We've got a great show lined up for you. We've got my colleague Trae Holiday live over at Garfield High School. We're going to go over to her there in a minute. We're also talking to Sam Kelly live today as an event that's going on, a virtual event. You know, that's the thing about today. There's different ways for people to participate and to honor the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We got a few stories here. Best thing is actually yesterday, me and Eric Calligraphy Wilson, we got a chance to sit down with Stephanie Johnson Tolliver, the Black Heritage Society of the state of Washington, and we learned about how Martin Luther King County got its name. Old school people here know that it was originally, the original name was King County, named after a different person, and then the name got changed to Martin Luther King Jr. County. We're also going to talk about the history of Martin Luther King Way right here through Seattle. Like I said, the old school heads know it used to be called Empire Way back in the day. On that note, though, speaking of the Central District, let me bring in my partner in crime, Trae Holiday.
Hey, everybody. What's up?
What's up, Trae? What's going on out there?
You know what? I got this show you guys a little bit of what's going on. They're getting folks ready for the march. The rally is happening. They were playing some music out here. We got the volunteers on lock. I got my money from Rudy 23 is right there with the sage bundles for sale. I mean, literally, this is another showcasing of the people coming out to celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. King. And their theme this year is Good Trouble. So after John Lewis himself, it's time for us to get into some good trouble out here.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that was Sage. I was like, man, they out there barbecuing already? I should have came up there too.
Don't worry, just Sage, man, making sure the environment is ready for us, keeping it clear. And lots of folks, as you see, are really coming down now on their way here. So again, you know, folks always gather. Normally the rally is held inside of the auditorium, Quincy Jones. But, you know, this year with COVID regulations, the MLK Junior Organizing Coalition made those adjustments so that we can be safe out here.
All right. All right. Well, you know, Trae, I'm going to play a clip here from Dr. King. We played it early on the morning update show almost a year ago. And, you know, people this time of year, people play these quotes from Dr. King, and they say things like, you know, the I had a dream speech, or either I've been to the mountaintop and everything else. And people don't play enough stuff like this from Dr. King, where he said that black is beautiful and he's proud of his blackness.
I come here tonight and plead with you. Believe in yourself and believe that you're somebody. As I said to a group last night, nobody else can do this for us. No document can do this for us. No Lincolnian Emancipation Proclamation can do this for us. No Kennysonian or Johnsonian Civil Rights Bill can do this for us. If the Negro is to be free, he must move down into the inner resources of his own soul and sign with a pen and ink of self-assertive manhood his own Emancipation Proclamation. Don't let anybody take your manhood. Be proud of our heritage. As somebody said earlier tonight, we don't have anything to be ashamed of. Somebody told a lie one day. They couched it in language. They made everything black, ugly, and evil. Look in your dictionary and see the synonyms of the word black. There's always something degrading and low and sinister. Look at the word white. It's always something pure, high, and clean. But I want to get the language right tonight. I want to get the language so right that everybody here will cry out, yes, I'm black, I'm proud of it, I'm black and beautiful.
Yo, so that's really something from Dr. King that don't really get played a lot. And it's funny because we said the same thing we saying right now. Ain't nobody coming to save us. We got to save ourselves. And let's get the language right. Black is beautiful.
Black is beautiful. And you know what? Oh, that's exactly why I'm wearing what I'm wearing today. It's all about that black fist, the power right now. And honestly, in the theme of this year, that good trouble was something that Dr. King knew very well firsthand. You know, he said, we're going to march peacefully. We're going to be proud of our skin. We're going to be proud of our accomplishments. That was something that same lesson needs to get injected into the people today. We need to be reminded of that, Omari. And honestly, I'm out here just to be one of those voices to tell us again, let's be proud of who we are. Absolutely, brother. Great clip from Dr. King.
All right, now he's fired up out there, Trae Holiday, getting in some good trouble. I know we're going to be talking about the day's events throughout the show, but I want to take a moment right now to bring in Sam Kelly from Silent Service so he can tell us what's going on right there. What's up, Sam? Where's Sam at? Hey, what's up, Sam? How are you? Welcome to the Morning Update Show.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here, my brother. Thanks for having me.
All right, so tell us, man, what's going on? Let me put this overlay up. Why don't you tell us what's going on today?
Yeah, so today, on this special day is Silent Service Volume 4. This is the first virtual edition of the program.
And for people who aren't familiar with Silent Service, what's Silent Service all about?
Yeah, Silent Service is, I say it's part meditation, part mixtape. I've done 3 previously since the tragic events in June that are typically held at the Martin Luther King Memorial Park, of which my uncle was the sculptor, Robert W. Kelly, an artist from the Jacob Lawrence era. And the folks you see on the poster are my folks who are longstanding freedom fighters and academics. And, all my life I was completely blessed to be immersed in a world of dialogue about social change from lived experience. And myself, I'm a storyteller, filmmaker, and an artist. And when there was a moment I thought there's something I can do, it was putting together speeches, music, meditative things for people to absorb what's happening in the movement right now. I think so many people, we're so thirsty to acquire knowledge, and I'm hoping to provide an experience a little over an hour that people can sit with and that feels like soul food for the mind, something that sticks. Like you were saying earlier in that clip, the language matters, the words matter. And that's what I'm trying to do.
Right. I know you have quite a family legacy here in Seattle. I think it was your grandfather was the first, one of the first ethnic studies professors there at the University of Washington. Tell people.
I will just interject. That's actually my dad, and that was the running joke because he was an elder statesman, and I'm actually his namesake. So yeah, the Samuel E. Kelly Ethnic Cultural Center is my father, who I was the gift later in life, and just trying to keep the legacy of my family alive. Okay,
and real quick, maybe you can tell people now, how do they access the Silent Service?
Yeah, so there's a link. It's do206.com/MLK service. And there's an MP3 clip, and you just download that. And then I'm hosting a Zoom gathering space for people just to notice, that we have a community here that are experiencing the service at the same time. And I think something that I've experienced and been able to feel as a gift is my experience with grief. Having lost, the 2 most important people in my life. And as we're all dealing with the loss of lives in COVID and Black and brown bodies that are laid out all too often, it's an opportunity to collectively grieve. So doing this virtually, seeing the names of people that are letting this wash over them, I think is something that is really important to me, and I'm happy to share.
All right, Sam Kelly, we appreciate it. I know Nikki Barron's put the link over there in the comments so people can go to the website and they can download. Man, have a wonderful day and keep up the good work, Sam.
Thank you. Talk to you again.
You see, Trae Holiday, the best thing is you know what me, I'm always saying in every crisis there's an opportunity. And so we're dealing with this COVID crisis, but it's amazing how innovative people have been and even celebrating Martin Luther King's birthday. You know, we saw virtual teach-ins over the weekend. We see something like what Sam's doing there with Silent Service. We see you guys out there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a coordinated effort in Seattle. That's one of the things I love so much about our hometown, honestly. We were a part of the MLK workshops that were virtual this year. I told the coalition they did a great job of making those adjustments and still educating the community. We had, like 160 people or something show up to our workshop, and I know that all the other workshops were well attended. People are still engaging, Omari. They are interested. They want to be educated, and I love the fact that we have amazing opportunities in a multi-faceted way for people to be educated and to be a part of the process, because it does take us all.
Definitely. So, a lot of people in King County don't even realize that King County is named after Martin Luther King Jr. And it's the only, to my knowledge, and even Stephanie Johnson Tolliver's knowledge, it's the only geographic location in America named after a civil rights icon. Me and Eric Calligraphy yesterday had an opportunity to sit down with Stephanie and to be able to learn the history of how King County changed its name from King County to King County. Here's Stephanie Johnson Tolliver of the Black Heritage Society, state of Washington.
The history of how the county namesake was changed was amazing, and actually took a number of years to get there. It wasn't just an overnight thing. First, with a little bit of history about King County, is that in 1852, the county was originally named for William King. And William King was the vice president to Franklin Pierce. He was pretty low-key guy, but then some things rose to the surface on his reputation about being a slave owner. He owned over 500 slaves. He was a senator from Alabama. And one of the quirky little things, a connection and how history intersects, is that he actually named Selma, Alabama. So we all know the history of Martin Luther King and the Selma to Montgomery March. So that's just a little interesting kind of quirky thing. So in 1852, King County is named for William King, the vice president to Franklin Pierce. It stays that for years and years. Obviously, fast forward to 1986, and we have Ron Sims, who is now on the King County Council. He's the first African American to sit on the King County Council. He proposes an idea that the county be named for Martin Luther King. And this is 86, so it's coming on the heels of when Eddie Rye and Central Area Community Grassroots had just got Empire Way South changed to Martin Luther King Way. So 2 years later, Sims is saying, well, you know what? I think it would be an excellent idea. Who else will join me on the King County Council for this proposal to change the name? And most of the council members are really good with it. But there were a couple that were pushing back and saying, well, leave history as it is. Why are we here changing this name? And there were people even in the media at that time saying, well, if we're gonna change to King County, why don't we just change Washington State to Booker T. Washington instead of George Washington State? So there was all kinds of controversy going on in the community. And the King County Council was feeling this pushback. So they sit with it and they sit with it, and finally they decide to adopt King County as the namesake with Martin Luther King. So again, it was an adoption within the council. Fast forward again to 1999, and you have Larry Gossett, who is coming to the King County Council. Ron Sims is the county executive at that time. So Larry proposes at the council, let's, now that we're King County, let's get a new logo. Let's get this logo that actually represents Martin Luther King. Because prior to that, I don't know if anyone remembers, but the county logo was a crown. And so he was proposing a likeness of Martin Luther King. Well then, oh gosh, the ugly head rises again, and people start coming out of the cracks with all of these stories and accusations, pitting William King's reputation and legacy against Martin Luther King. We all know that Martin Luther King came in peace and equity and justice, and he was that person that we held high esteem. He'd won the Nobel Peace Prize. So people were coming from both directions about their idea of King County. And there were members on the county council who were saying, well, you know, back in '86, that was more symbolic. You know, we were giving this this rename out of symbolism, but we really needed the state legislature to make it official. So that's where, again, all the controversy began. There were years of Adam Klein, our senator at the state capitol, who was encouraging this vote. He brought the vote to change King County 8 times before it was actually adopted in Olympia in the Senate. He, together with Eric Pettigrew from the 37th District in the House, was able to manage and pass by a really slim vote to adopt and officially recognize King County as Martin Luther King Jr. King County. And from there, they still hadn't made any commitment to the logo. You know, the whole thing with Larry bringing the idea of the logo pushed this whole legislation piece. So it wasn't until 2005 when this legislation was actually official. The King County Council decides to let For Culture, they're the arts and culture branch of the county, to put a bid out for artists to design a new logo for the county. And we wait another 2 years till 2007 when we actually have the official logo, wearing my pin proudly today, that recognizes Martin Luther King. So it wasn't an easy piece to have happen. I've always said that in most Black households, well, in a number of Black households, there were 3 pictures that were on the wall, right? There was Jesus, there was JFK, and Martin Luther King. So again, this was a huge, huge deal for people in Washington State, and not just Black people, but many other advocates that were proponents of changing the name. So that in a nutshell is kind of how it all happened.
So Trae Holiday right there, you know, in 7 minutes or so, Stephanie Johnson-Tolliver breaks down the history of how it went from King County to King County. And it wasn't easy.
Yeah, absolutely not. This is why we love to pay homage to those leaders in the community that really pressed for this, Omar, and really made it happen. Ultimately, and this is another reason why Seattle and King County, Martin Luther King Jr. County, really should be leading the nation. We already are with using his legacy to actually cement ourselves in his namesake. And honestly, to be in Seattle, to be right here, living in Martin Luther King Jr. County, I am ready to showcase to the nation that we have amazing people here ready to lead in his legacy. That is exactly what today is all about. Amazing history. Stephanie broke it down so beautifully. And I know that many of us, I learned something just from that video right there. So thank you for getting her down to the studio, being able to interview her. She's so knowledgeable and with a history that really has shaped so much of what we see today. And most of us don't know how it got there. So it was great to hear that story, y'all.
Right. And I mean, it's very interesting just where you're standing. And when we talk about the Central District of Seattle, and we talk about that at one point, Central District of Seattle was over 80% Black. Not quite that same number today, but people viewing you on screen to the left of you, that's Medgar Evers Poole. Medgar Evers, a civil rights icon, was assassinated down there in Mississippi. Some people might have saw a movie they did, The Ghost of Mississippi. Directly behind you, if you just scroll to your left, is the Quincy Jones Auditorium. Of course, we all know Quincy Jones, also a graduate of Garfield High School. 2 blocks from you on Yesler is Douglas Truth Library, which is named after Frederick Douglass and Sojourner Truth. And so, growing up in the Central District, as a kid, I swam in Medgar Evers Pool. I went to Douglas Truth Library. We're in Martin Luther King County. And so Seattle, it's real interesting because gentrification and displacement changed a lot of things. To the Black civil rights icons growing up in the CD. It was just named after them.
Absolutely, and that's exactly why education is so important, Omari. When I think about, my son, 15 and 7, and even though we're all the way in Federal Way, got displaced, I bring them here so that they can understand the legacy, how Seattle has uplifted the legacies, because it is important that Black people were able to have those examples of that leadership, in the midst of so much adversity, so much oppression, even more almost than what we see today. We see it now kind of hidden. It's changed its face a little bit, but it's still there for sure. But when we think about all of the folks that really gave their to liberation for folks, to equity for folks, our city right here, our county definitely exemplifies that with just things like you see here. I mean, as you can see, the sign that's right behind me right there, it even says it. So again, we have it right there. Medgar Evers and everything. So I agree with you, Omari. We were seeking it from our childhood, bro.
Right. I had another conversation with Stephanie Johnson Tolliver, the Black Heritage Society of the State of Washington, about Martin Luther King Way, which is actually about 4 blocks to the east of you. You're right there on 23rd. About 4 blocks to the east of you is Martin Luther King Way, which was originally named Empire Way. I remember as a kid, this whole process of changing the name from Empire Way to Martin Luther King Way. And here's Stephanie Johnson Tolliver explaining how that happened.
One of the reasons, getting back to, Martin Luther King Way, one of the reasons that that whole business was being pushed to change from Empire Way to Martin Luther King Way was because Jesse Jackson had been here in Seattle and had spoke with Eddie Rye, and there was this whole national effort among many states, or a number of states, to commemorate Martin Luther King. It too was a number of years, 4 years in the making. So after that visit of Jesse Jackson and Eddie, along with other grassroots Central area folks, went out and had a petition signed by 4,000 people. The petition was presented to the city council. Most on the city council were all for it. You had Norm Rice, who was sitting on the city council at that time. So, that was important and helped to move things along. But again, there was a struggle and pushback from some of the merchants that were on Martin Luther King or Empire Way. And funny enough, they were mostly opposed to changing because they felt that it was going to affect all of their marketing, their business. They were going to have to spend up to $4,000 for stationery and, changing names. And I don't know. So some of the pushback was coming there, and then also with legislation, they were saying this needs to be a referendum before the people. The city council can't just decide. They put together a lawsuit. Eddie will speak more on that, but there was a lawsuit from the merchants and pushed this for 2 years so that initially the petition was set out in late 81, 82, and we didn't see the official naming of Martin Luther King Way until 1984. And there's a really beautiful photograph, and I'll share it with you too, that was taken by Keith Williams at Flyrite on a day when Eddie was riding in a convertible, sitting on the back of a convertible with Downtown Freddie Brown holding the big sign that said Martin Luther King Jr. Way.
Man, I miss the old neighborhood.
Absolutely. I mean, what a beautiful photo. Once again, you know, Black Heritage Society just really has the information, and I'm just so thankful that we have this platform to bring Stephanie Johnson Tolliver on so that she can share this knowledge with our audience, with the larger community. I'll be playing that clip for my sons later today so that they can learn as well. It's time for us to make sure we understand where we come from so we know exactly where we're going, man.
All right, so Trae, I'm looking here, and it looks like the rest of the stuff here is headlines from local news. I know that you have some stuff going on there, and also that you're going to be participating in the march. So we're going to take a break here, and we're going to cut you loose, and I'm going to do the rest of the headlines, and we're going to catch back up to you when the actual march gets going. So I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys. Shout out to the Converge audience. We're getting love out here. They're just saying thank you for what we do, Omari. So I want to make sure you feel that love and our team feels that love.
Real quick, sorry about that. What's the route for today, and what time are they getting going?
Yeah, so it will start at 12 o'clock. They're going to be leaving Garfield High. They're going to be going down Jefferson, down 23rd, and down Yesler, because they're going to be in front of the Odessa Brown. Dr. Ben Danielson will be speaking there. And then we're going to head on down to Prosecutor Dan Satterberg's office, and that's where the march will end on 5th Avenue.
All right. Thanks, Trae. We'll catch you in a bit.
Bye, guys.
I did it for the city. I did it for the love. I did it for the people. I did it for us.
Back on this rap ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own. Tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers, and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
Welcome back to the Morning Update Show. My name is Omari Salisbury. So we've cut Trae Holiday loose. She's getting ready to join the march over there. They're starting at Garfield High School. It's going by Odessa Brown Clinic on Yesler. And she said Dr. Ben Danielson is going to be addressing the crowd there. And then going downtown to, looks like to the prosecutor's office, to the courthouse, to Dan Satterberg's office. Man, very, very special thank you to Stephanie Johnson Tolliver, Black Heritage Society of the State of Washington. Nikki put the links to their website and social that's in there. We want to support them. These are the custodians of this history, and we just keep coming with it. I called Stephanie, said, well, we want to do something a little bit different. Let's give some people some historical perspective locally, because we hear a lot of stuff, of course, nationally about Dr. King. But what are some of the local implications here? And also we did something different too, because usually traditionally it's news shows, so we go with headlines first, but we wanted to honor the day first. And before we get into the other headlines, this right here is KUOW. Go to KUOW today. So Martin Luther King Jr. visited Seattle once in 1961. Lines from the speech that he gave at my alma mater, me and Trae, James A. Garfield High School, would later be woven into his I Have a Dream address. You can find this article up there today at KUOW.org. That's Dr. King there with the late Reverend McKinney, iconic Reverend McKinney from Mount Zion Baptist Church. So important note here, because it looks like we got a lot of police headlines. We have the director of OPA live here in studio tomorrow. Director Meyerberg is going to be in here. We're talking about a lot of stuff. I got Oya and Eric here in the studio right now. I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but Pink Umbrella, the June 1st, the day the gas came out, OPA sustained that finding, said that the police used excessive force when they released that tear gas up there that day. And so we're gonna talk to Director Meyerberg about that, and then also talk to him. It's a very interesting thing that happened over the weekend. And actually, I was tagged in a tweet, and this tweet went viral. We'll talk about it here. We'll bring this up. This is from Casual Weekend Mom. I'm an ER nurse in Seattle. Last night, SPD officers came to the ER to obtain a statement from an assault patient. An officer, Eric Whitehead, blatantly refused to put on a mask while standing in a high traffic hallway. There were COVID positive patients in nearby rooms. Now this tweet goes on and on, but it's like 6 or 7 parts of the tweet. But you see that 55,000 retweets, 115,000 likes. Man, I mean, we tweet a lot of stuff. I ain't never get talk about viral. So then what happens is that I guess this is where social media is at, and policing and accountability or whatever right here in the city. After that, the Seattle Police Department tweets out, "First, thank you and your colleagues for your work during the pandemic. All of our officers have previously been directed to use face masks, PPE, to protect themselves and others. Please contact OPA about this incident so they can review it." And now OPA works 2 ways. One way is that someone can report something to OPA, like directly, like, hey, I want to report something. Or OPA on its own can open its own case. So then here comes OPA using their Twitter machine. Last night, OPA initiated an investigation into an allegation by an ER nurse that SPD officer refused to wear a mask in the hospital. And by using the term initiated, I'm assuming that OPA took it upon themselves. I mean, after 55,000 retweets and 115,000 likes on this tweet, OPA has initiated an investigation. So we'll talk to Director Meyerberg about that. And then SPD, this is in the Seattle Times, SPD reaffirms mask guidelines after hospital incident that blew up on Twitter. So another thing that also has our department in the news here is that it looks like Chief Diaz took swift and decisive action. Seattle Police Chief fires officer for racist remark after fellow officers report him. You can read more about this on the Seattle Times. And basically, the gist of it is that there was a group of officers that encountered somebody there, a black guy, African guy, and they were discussing it after the fact. And one officer referred to him as a Kunta Kinte. And I wouldn't even go into all of that. We talking about King and uplifting and everything today. But basically, the other 3 officers that were there, they took offense to that. Then they discussed it amongst themselves, and they actually are the ones who reported. They reported this officer. And the officer was fired. And what I read is that SPOG, the union, basically didn't fight for this officer. So we're going to talk to Director Meyerberg about that as well. So tomorrow, live here, 11 a.m., we're going to have OPA Director Meyerberg. We'll see if we can put a form out for people who might have a question for the director. OPA, man, stay in the mix. Also, another thing too, when you talk about policing, and I really be wanting to talk about other things, I sat down with police inspector general. So the police here even have an inspector general. They got OPA, they got CPC, and an inspector general. I sat down with police inspector general Lisa Judge, and what the inspector general is doing is having a Sentinel event review. And a Sentinel event review, they're looking back at everything that transpired this summer across the city in regards to the Seattle protests. And the inspector general is basically going to be holding public forums for the public to be able to give feedback to the inspector general's office. And with that information, they're going to determine if they need to make systemic or policy changes within the Seattle Police Department. So we'll also be airing that interview that I did with Inspector General Lisa Judge. That's going to be tomorrow in the evening, and we'll let you know the exact time tomorrow on the morning update show. Moving on to national news here. We got a few clips. One thing, actually two clips here on the national front. One, both from CBS this morning. One is Biden, and they're talking about his agenda. As soon as he gets in the office, it sounds like as soon as he's sworn in, man, this guy's going to pull out the pen and start signing executive orders.
We are learning new details about what President-elect Joe Biden plans to do in his first days in office. They include rolling back some of President Trump's best-known policies. Weisha Zhang is covering the Biden transition in Wilmington, Delaware, and joins us from there. Good morning to you, Weisha. They have a lot planned on their very first day.
They do, Gail. They're going to get right to work. This weekend, President-elect Biden spent it working on his inaugural address, which will aim to tackle bridging the gap of a deeply divided nation. And you're right. He has announced an aggressive plan for his first 10 days in office. On day one as president, Mr. Biden plans to reverse the Trump administration's ban of travelers from some Muslim-majority countries, rejoin the Paris Climate Accord, and mandate mask wearing on federal property and during interstate travel, among other policies. He also plans to extend the pause on federal student loan payments and continue protecting people from evictions and foreclosures. All those actions Mr. Biden can do unilaterally, but he does need Congress to achieve other goals, namely passing a $1.9 trillion COVID relief package and getting cabinet nominees approved. But senators will likely also be juggling President Trump's second impeachment trial. Tony?
Weisha, thank you very much.
So we see right there, Biden, they're ready to go. You guys doing a lot back there. No, you all right. You know, keeping me on my toes. You're doing great. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's good to see you in the studio, Eric. Hey. It's good to see you up this early. So in other news, we're keeping an eye on this in Washington, D.C. I think the whole world is actually keeping an eye on Washington, D.C. And something that's interesting about this clip, which is unfortunate, but kind of tells you the state of things, is that the FBI is vetting the National Guard members that are on the ground there in D.C. to make sure that they don't have any kind of extremist affiliation. So imagine that. They want to make sure that there's no National Guardsmen there that might actually pull an inside job. So the FBI is vetting through 25,000 National Guardsmen to make sure that it's okay for them to actually be inside of that green zone there in Washington, D.C.
America is just 2 days away from the inauguration, but the mood in Washington, you could say, is tense, very tense. It looks like a military zone near the Capitol with tall fencing and up to 25,000 National Guard troops expected by Wednesday. The National Mall and many streets are closed amid concerns about the potential domestic terror threat from right-wing extremists.
A new CBS News poll includes a startling figure. 54% of Americans say the biggest threat to America's way of life is other people in America. Jeff Pegues is inside a restricted area of Washington. Jeff, good morning.
Good morning, Anthony. 2 days out from the inauguration, and security is locking down here, and that includes the vetting of the security force that is in place here. This is a massive security force. Make no mistake about that. And what it has done is essentially sent the message to the public, don't come down here. You know why? If you look behind me, you can see why. Businesses are boarded up all over this place, and the streets are shut down. New video published by The New Yorker shows rioters pouring through a window into a hallway of the Capitol on January 6th. There, they told police why they say they were in the building.
We are listening to Trump. You're involved.
They eventually gained access to the Senate chamber.
Hey, let's take a seat, people!
Some were searching for lawmakers. On the Senate floor, they rifled through papers looking for any valuable information.
I think Cruz would want us to do this, so yeah, absolutely. I think we're good.
And posed for photos.
I love you guys, you're brothers, but we can't be disrespectful. Don't disrespect. They can steal an election, but we can't sit in their chair? No!
Seen in the video is Air Force veteran Larry Brock, who was carrying plastic zip ties that can function as makeshift handcuffs.
It's a PR war, okay? You have to understand it's an IO war. We can't lose the IO war.
Brock has been charged with knowingly entering or remaining in a restricted building and violent entry and disorderly conduct on Capitol grounds. Brock is one of at least 22 current or former members of the U.S. military or law enforcement who've been identified as being at or near the riot. That's according to the Associated Press, which also reports the defense officials fear a possible inside attack at the inauguration. David Martin has asked General Daniel Hawkinson, the chief of the National Guard Bureau, about any internal concerns.
Are you worried at all about the reliability of your National Guard troops?
Absolutely not.
Have you been screening some of the troops as they come in?
Yes, sir. In coordination with the Secret Service and the FBI, they're screening all the personnel that are coming in.
The National Guard troops answer to the commander-in-chief, who until Wednesday at noon will still be President Trump. On 60 Minutes last night, Scott Pelley asked Acting Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security Ken Cuccinelli what they would do if Mr. Trump asked them to stand down.
We're going to complete our jobs. There's not a stand down. We have a statutory mission. We're going to perform under all circumstances, and I think that hypothetical is not going to happen. It's unimaginable.
What was unimaginable just a few weeks ago is this level of security to cover an inauguration in this country. However, the prospect of fellow Americans threatening violence against other Americans, that's what has brought this on, and that's where we stand now.
Yeah, this is wild that they're actually, the FBI has to vet the troops that are on the ground to make sure that it's not an insider attack. It's going to be an interesting next few days. You know, I think everybody here is hoping for the best, but it's definitely going to be interesting. But we're not going to let that steal the thunder of the day. Like I said, we're going to hook back up with Trae Holiday here in a bit, and she's actually going on the march. And so I think we're building a broadcast for that, and we'll be live with Trae here in a little bit as they go on this march down past Odessa Brown and into downtown Seattle. Man, I want to encourage everybody. You know, it's like, I don't know, man. You know, we get a lot of lip service around Martin Luther King Day. It's funny, you know, how many people, you know, it's politically correct to do this and that, and that's fine. But you know, it's like, be the change you really want to see. What is it that you can do? You know, one of the things that Dr. King said is that, man, you know, everybody can be a service. Everybody's special because everybody can be a service. So how can you be a service, especially right now when our city needs people of service the most? And that service might be in the social justice. It might be helping people with COVID relief. Man, it might just be a listening ear. It might just be having some understanding for your neighbor who might think differently than you do. But we need to all find a way to be a service. And, you know, here at Converge, for us, you know, there's a lot of people who are like, well, man, are you guys going to go? Are you going to participate in this program, participate in that program? Clearly, Trae Holiday, she's out there and she's in the march. And I thought that the best thing that we could do here at Converge is do what we've been doing. which is working hard every day to try to bring our community news and information, and can continue that effort, because for us, it's not just a one day out the year thing. We're acknowledging when you talk about the dream, we're living this dream every single day here and trying to push it forward. That being said, I appreciate you. We appreciate you. We're wishing everybody a joyous, a prosperous, and an informed Martin Luther King Day. Again, tomorrow, 11 a.m., we have Director Meyerberg from OPA. Tomorrow evening, Police Inspector General Lisa Judge. Like I said, we over here doing our work. So we'll catch up with Trae Holiday in a bit. Until tomorrow at 11 a.m. Peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song